All right, hey, viewers, subscribers, and ultimate fans of the Necessary Entrepreneur Podcast. Hey, we're excited to bring to you this compilation episode of tidbits, outtakes, and really cool sessions that we feel came from the first season. And the new iteration of the podcast, the new studio, the brand new production team, we are excited about what 2023 is going to bring for us. And so we figured going into the fourth quarter in October, we bring you a compilation of a lot of awesome people. People like top realtor Nick Foltz, Glenn Campbell, co-founder of Lids, Paul Miller owns brewery Birkus, J.C. Baker, the business doctor, Albert Fetters, Michelle Michael, just so many different people here that we were so fortunate to have on the podcast in the first, we call it the first season, the iteration. So I hope you all love it. I hope you enjoy. If you like these, as we start to build our subscriber base, please subscribe, whatever platform it's on. You can find it on the podcast platforms of iTunes and Spotify, but you can also watch the episodes on YouTube. So I hope you all enjoy this to give you the best parts of our first season, and please like and subscribe so you can follow it going forward, so that as we continue to have awesome guests and get better at this podcast thing we do with Dave and Jack in the background here, we hope you enjoy the compilation for the first season of podcast episodes from the Necessary Entrepreneur. Thanks, guys. We look forward to following you in the future and putting out even better content that can help us all. Enjoy. Didn't you live in Miami for a while?
I lived in Miami. I was
you were doing DJ.
I
Yeah.
was a DJ for a while. Lived a block away from the beach. Block and a half, couple blocks or whatever away from the beach.
What are some of the places you were a DJ in for? Like, did you?
Yeah.
Were some of the clubs still there, or what? What were the areas?
I don't know. I haven't checked in, but DJ'd in the Everglades. Did just some club nights. I had a weekly on the beach. It was called Beach Bar. Played like Electro House, and stuff like that. Just stuff where I could bring the energy. Right? This is where I could dance and act like a fool and have fun. But everything I've ever done, there has been an hourglass over my head in every industry. There's always been pressure. Pressure if you don't perform, right? Pressure if you don't perform as a DJ. Pressure if you don't perform as a server. Pressure if you don't accurately deliver as a blackjack dealer. Always pressure.
So did all of those experiences, were those critical, leading you to this path that all of a sudden, when this real estate world showed up on your front porch and you tackled this, and it's way more pressure than any of those ever thought about being, that you were prepared?
Yeah.
So this is something to help people with. If they haven't dealt with multiple pressurized jobs or what they thought were careers at the moment, they maybe should think twice about not going down the path of a real estate career. Is there a chance of that?
Yeah, I'm not going to disagree. I mean, I think that depends on the level that you want. But for me, that has been normal for, probably 20 years, working under significant amounts of pressure, and even before that, doing stage acting, theater, independent films, all of that stuff, right? Everything was, if you made one insignificant mistake, that was
Didn't you have this movie wasn't that big? It could have had the chance to be big. Didn't you have a
really
moment in Gotti?
Oh yeah.
Did you? The one with John Travolta?
Yeah.
Like, what was the scene?
Oh, it was
Would
great.
they pay you like $20 to do this or something?
Probably not even that. So.
But give it to me. I saw the scene.
Oh my God! It was.
So when was it?
So the scene I was in was like the coolest scene in the movie.
And the movie was just not good.
And the movie was. Sorry if anybody's watching this. That was
sorry. And the topic with Gotti and the mob and all that stuff. Like, everybody's it had the chance to be amazing.
The genetic makeup of something incredible. And
I bet you were so excited.
Oh my God, how amazing this is going to be.
So your scene, set this up for us.
Yeah, so, okay. So, me, Sicilian bloodline heritage, right? So obviously I'm like the typical Italian-American one. I'm like, the mob, this is great. So I love all of that, right? And so, when I was in college, I remember doing like a presentation on the mob, and it's just this huge, just loved it, right? Absolutely love it, right?
So the moment shows up.
Yeah.
Your whole life has led to this moment.
Exactly. So
you get to be in Gotti. You show up. They actually wanted you to be in the movie.
Yeah.
Take that 10-year-old Glenn and the things that you learned by default watching him, the conversations that when you would get back in the truck, shaking adults' hands and people that he's selling stuff to. How do kids do that today?
It's a great question, because my kids I've got a daughter, 29, son, 27, son, 19, be 20 in a couple of days, and a daughter that's almost 17. So, 29 to 17, 2 girls, 2 boys. Every one of them have never met a stranger. And, man, they've watched me. They've went to events with me. They've traveled with me to, they've been blessed. They're spoiled. All-Star games, World Series, Super Bowls. And when you go to those places, when you're in the business I was in, you're in the booth with Roger Goodell. You're in the booth with the commissioner of baseball. And you may not talk to those people, but you're talking to the owner of Papa John's or some actor or some athlete, and so
you're in the room. You're in the room
100%. And there's the guy from Nike, the guy from Reebok, this or that. Hey, by the way, I'm going to introduce you to these people, whether you were 12, 10, 16, 18, 22, and you're going to shake their hand, you're going to look at them, you're going to speak to them, they're going to ask you questions, and you need to give them answers. I mean, and so they'd interact. I take my kids back year after year, and how they knew these people. These people now talk to them. They email these people now about certain things. So, Eli, my son, I started taking to the NBA draft when he was 12. He still speaks to the guys at the NBA, and he's 19, talks to them about stuff. So he's built that. But I have so many people say, man, your kids are so mature. When I talk to them, they shake my hand, they look me in the eye. It's yes, it's no, it's not yeah. I go, I hope it's and it's not. Man, that is a lost art on some kids, not all, but I think really, I do believe that somebody in your life had to instruct you.
Yep.
You didn't just
okay
because if you were my kids and you just hung around other kids, most of them don't do that.
So beer and Bierkus, am I saying that right?
Bierkus, there you go.
Okay, so explain this thing to us on. So I'm a Northern Kentucky guy.
Gotcha.
From Boone County. And I hear about this thing, and it's getting ready to open, and I'm like, Bierkus? What?
We don't correct people. Bierkus is fine. But that's what it looks like it says. My buddy in Belgium brews Bierkus beer. And I met him.
You going to have one, or is this?
Oh, please.
Which one?
I'll have a pie fighter.
Oh. Does it taste as good as it sounds?
Tastes good. Cheers.
Cheers.
Salantia.
Okay. All right. To the amazing, what is it again? It's not the circus entrepreneur. It's the what? What is your name?
A chief goof officer.
Chief goof officer.
To goofing off. To goofing off.
Isn't that the best in life, when you can live a great life and have a job and goof off?
It's great. It's neat. I was staying at the really cool anarchist hostel in Berlin, and if you ever go to Berlin, don't stay at the Marriott. Okay, seek me out. It's a neat spot to be. But there's a guy there who brews Bierkus beer to fund his circus project. So he's in Belgium. So Ghent, Belgium's a lot like the 275 loop. Okay, so Cincinnati would be the Wallonians. That's the kind of the Dutch, German, like power side. The Francophones, that would be the Northern Kentucky. But the Wallonians or the Flemish would be the Lawrenceburg, Indiana. Like, it's in the loop. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, kind of.
One exit.
Do we claim them?
No, yeah, we know. But that's a lot like. That's the geopolitics of Belgium. Okay, so it's just like the 275 loop,
Okay.
So I met him in 2010, and 2015 started kind of the concept and the idea. 2016, we're the first brewery in the United States to register under regulation A+, so we could have non-accredited investors. So it took me 2 years to raise the money. $1,000 at a time, but we've got 130 investors. And
that's huge.
It's cool,
right?
Right. And
$130,000.
No, it's my biggest guy's in for like 70 large, which is
that's
awesome.
large.
But it was neat because the state of Kentucky, I had to apply a couple times, and that's fine. Once I'm like, hey, Braxton got the angel investor tax credit. I want to get. How about me? No. Submit it again. I submitted again. No. And I was like, okay, well, what do we got to do here? Finally, we got it. We got the angel investor.
Is that what the A+ is? The angel investor?
No, A+ means it's for not angel. It's for non-accredited investors.
So an accredited investor is like over 250 net worth, all that stuff, right?
Yeah, you got to have $1 million in net worth to be considered an accredited investor.
Right.
And the SEC's looking out for you to make sure that nobody's going to like take anything away or whatever. It's not.
It could affect your life if you lose the money.
Yeah.
So it's a way for the average Joe to get involved in something really cool.
That's the goal, and it was part of the whole
Jobs Act, like coming out of 2019, 2009, when everything was just falling apart.
Dude.
That was one of the things they did because they wanted the kind of everyman to have access to, investing, because you can't invest in Facebook, or you couldn't invest in,
We don't have access to those people in those conversations.
No.
Like Gary Vee may, because he's buddies with Zuckerberg.
Right.
We're not. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. You're at the wrong place if you think we're sitting here with Zuckerberg.
Absolutely.
Right?
No.
Yeah.
But it was cool because,
Yeah.
we've put this thing together. So the first year we just made beer through distribution. I learned a lot on that angle. I mean, that's tough, and we can't compete with the heavy duties.
Yep.
And then second year we'd opened a little 25-seat tasting room. So that was about 3 years ago. And then 2 years
17.
ago we opened the theater,
Which is cool.
which
Been
is
there.
neat. So it's been like a long process, but this is probably like the fifth or sixth time we've brewed the Pie Fighter, the Pilsner.
Yep.
That one you're drinking there, the Irreguliner, that's a Berliner Weiss, kind of German, but a sour. Everybody's got to have a sour these days,
Right. Your income and your success is similar to the top 5 people you hang around and you spend the most time with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How do you feel about that in your wife? I know that it's exactly evidenced in my wife.
Mm-hmm.
And there's this challenge. I was poor. Grew up. I was poor, didn't have a lot of money. That's probably the hustle and the grind part, right? But a part of it. Great mom, not a good dad. But I look back at some of the people I was friends with when I was 20 and 22 and 20. It's not that I don't like them. It's not that I don't remember where I was.
Mm-hmm.
But I've just gone to a new place. I'm not forgetting where I came from. I just got to a new place. And I look back and I look at these 3, 4, or 5 people I spend this amount of time with. And, man, it's because, to your point, you level up to the people you're with. And if you want to go to the next level, you got to start getting around different levels of talent, people that know more than you. And so is that something you think that it's pretty exemplary of what maybe you went through, of what your clients could go through? If you got to level up, you got to get around some more people, some different people.
Well, in that case, I say it's correct, especially in this instance. There's a lot about international business that I'm still uncertain about. Even though we've done work in 8 countries, 5 continents, we're about to do a large deal. We just got agreements, a large deal in Brazil, 1,000 manufacturers out there. There's still things in Brazil that I'm uncertain about, but we have a Latino wing. So therefore, I'm thankful for Renan Delgado that he can walk us through the culture. He speaks the language. He's telling me things that there's no way possible I would have known. I've never been there. I don't have a great historical reference for it. We understand the business practices. So we know how to infiltrate those. Here's my point, is that in order for me to level up in Brazil, I better know someone that's already leveled up in Brazil.
100%.
Right. And so therefore I have to be under Renan and say, Renan, you take the lead on this one, because I have to learn from you so that when we get the next one, then the next one, now I understand what that looks like. And so that's very much the case. Now, when it comes to your individual success, I always make this statement to anybody that's in my close circles. I say, you're responsible for your own future. No one else is. So you better create the image for that future, and then you better find out how to go access it.
Man, it's exciting where you're at. I'm going through this process. I'm like, well, of course you guys have signs everywhere. Of course you're doing these projects, right?
Yeah.
Of course. So this brewery thing, can we touch on that? Because we're in Kentucky for bourbon. We have this. I'm not even a big drinker, but we have this bourbon. We're buying a bourbon barrel from New Riff. Yeah.
Yep.
So we wrote the check and 200 and something bottles.
Yeah.
But man, this distillery thing and this bourbon thing, it is like the hot hip thing.
It is hot, hip, and that's crazy. The nice thing about being diversified in all the different businesses that we're in, and we are able to follow the trends.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But right now we're doing a gin distillery in OTR, which is right down on Central Park, right down from SC Stadiums. Michelle's done a great vision on this thing, and she's actually going to have wine and craft beer.
And distilling gin.
And distilled gin. And she actually tapped into the aquifer that Seagram's is in Cincinnati. She's in the same spine getting water out of the aquifer. It's a cool project. Like I said, I've been working on it for quite some time.
Yep.
She's been working on it for about 7 years, and it's finally her life, her dreams coming to life.
Yep.
Then we have another bourbon distillery out in Petersburg, Kentucky, Three Keys Distillery. Jessica, we're taking an old general store, before you get to the Rabbit House General Store. We're picking it up, moving it out of the right of way. That's going to be our tasting room. But then in the back, we're creating her distillery.
What
It's pretty cool.
What else do you have? You have a couple more or no? Are you doing?
Those are the two we're doing
now?
right now. Obviously, I see you got Birkus here, so
Oh, yeah.
I've helped
With
Paul.
Are you helping him on his new stuff, the vision?
yeah,
yeah,
so-
for the new event center and all that.
Paul and I talk all the time. He's an
Yeah.
old neighbor, and that's all
Okay.
we got to know. He's got complete. You talk about an entrepreneur,
Dude.
and you talk about being able to take a punch. That guy's been told no how many times, and you could never do it. And
I mean, that is incredible. And you just meet him, and it's like you do not want to go against him.
Yeah.
You see somebody like that, just spend time around them because what they're going to do stuff. They're going to lose a ton, but man, they're going to do stuff.
So yeah, so those are the two. Yeah, those are the ones we got going on right now, which is kind of cool.
So if Mark Perkins wanted to create a distillery or I don't know, a bourbon distillery, you have to age the barrels. That's the issue with bourbon, right?
Yep.
For how long? What makes it bourbon? 3 or 5 years?
5 years.
Okay. Or agenda. What type of check do I have to write to start something like that? Like, just go ahead and ruin everybody's dreams out here. Like what?
I don't know their whole process, but I mean, the building's going to the infrastructure.
tell me, like, hit me, like,
it's
what's
going to be $500,000 to $1 million just for your infrastructure
Okay.
before your still, but your still could cost you
500 grand, 700 grand, $1 million.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, you got to have a good investment. The other problem is the other big investment you have is all that aging. You can't sell it until it's 5 years old. So you got all this money tied up.
So what can you sell? Could you sell? So what is made? I don't understand as much. What's made in the process? I guess you could sell whiskey.
Yep.
And then keep some of it to age as bourbon.
And that's where the gin is. You're able to sell it quicker.
Okay.
But Three Keys did that. They did a blended whiskey. They did a 3-year. The blended.
Yep.
And actually it's really good. So you got to do that, but it's
So you're talking about millions of dollars.
millions of dollars. Especially you look at New Riff. I don't know what Ken has in that, but he's
knows?
got all those barrels. I mean, each one of those barrels are costing money, and they have to sit there. You got
gotta
money
pay
tied
tax
up.
on them. Excise. Don't you have to? I think he's paying.
Bond. You got to have security. You got to have taxes on it. You got bond. You got all kinds of. It goes in.
It's millions and millions. You better really want to do it.
Yeah, you got to be passionate about it. You
100%.
you better love it. And it's just the same thing. Anything you do,
Yeah.
an entrepreneur. People say it all the time. They want to do this and want to. You better be passionate about it. You
What's
better be
that
excited
mean?
to get up and.
So when you and me, if somebody says we know it, but when we say you better be passionate, what's that look like? Like what's the
To me, it's the unconditional love. The unconditional love like you have for a spouse, you have for your kid. Your kid's going to make things that you're going to drive you nuts. The kid's going to, my 15-year-old wanted me to go 11:30 Friday night to go pick him up at somebody's house. I didn't think twice about it. I'm going to go do it. I love my son. Did I want to get out of bed and at 11:30 at night and go get him? No. But you're going to do that. So being passionate means you're willing to put the time and the effort and the things that need to be done, you want to do. You don't get to do all the boss's hobbies. Some people think it's all rosy and everything. I call it boss's hobbies. Like, I really want to go do this, but I have to do all these things. And if I don't do all this, I don't get this.
So when it comes to Instagram in your world that you're just crushing, what are businesses missing? Like you were making fun of me the other day. We've recently met and connected, and we're going to see at an event that's happening here. But you were crushing us, and I was just like, hey, look at it. We don't do it well. We're starting to, but we don't. So what are businesses missing? Like what is the missing piece here?
The number one thing is they have no specific message to any one person. They think that they can talk to everyone and assume that somebody will listen. And one of the things that I'm sure we'll probably talk at your event about this, and I may even talk about it on stage, but if you do not believe in your business enough to niche down, you're not a good business owner, in my opinion. When I niched down to solely working with realtors and loan officers, I by no means deterred other people in other industries, right? I still had people in all kinds of industries that had nothing to do with those reaching out. I had my event on Thursday last week, and 2 of the people in the room had nothing to do with real estate, but they still paid to show up because they knew that, as you said earlier, this is going to translate. I just have to know how to pick it out of it. But that's the big thing, right? Is they're just producing content to produce content without knowing, here is my person. This is the person I really want to attract. And this is my ideal client's avatar. I am going to create content day in and day out, and I'm going to fish that person out. And once you make that commitment to, I'm good enough at what I do, to put this out into the world, your business will explode. There's
Is it
no
because
way
you're
it
focusing? No, it's a concentrated focus on a message, but is it because you're then focusing really, really tight now on who you're going after?
Yeah, because your content speaks more directly to them. You're able to produce content based off specific pain points that those people are looking for. You can, meaning like those are, when you have clients, right? Mark, you know this, when you work with people, they come to you with baggage, right? They come to you with questions, and these common things start to happen all the time in every transaction or every deal. You start hearing the same stuff. Now, if you can start producing content to solve those problems for someone who maybe didn't even know they had that problem in the first place, like consciously, subconsciously, they knew they did, but they didn't have any messaging that says, hey, if this is you, this is the person you should be hiring,
Sure.
right? Like, go ahead.
Are you speaking to their needs, their problems that you're solving? Because I'm thinking of it as those agents have different clients.
Yep.
So as a company, right, it'll be interesting when you come here to hear that, like, hey, that's going to be tough for me, at least from my perspective, sitting here now, listen, to drill down, to focus on.
But it's not,
Okay.
because when you're recruiting agents to come join Pivot,
Yep.
right? And I know you don't really recruit, a lot of time they come to you, but
We don't recruit anybody who's currently licensed, yeah.
yeah, so exactly, right? So you already know who your niche is with what you just said. My niche is agents who are not hanging their license anywhere or are not currently licensed.
Yep. And I have a little
Right.
bit more that I'll define when you get here. Like,
Exactly.
Yep. I know who we're going after, who we're trying to help change
point
your life.
is, now that you can say that and you can verbalize that to me, your conversation, if I always use this example, right? If I were to go to a realtor networking party, which we used to go to all the time, thank you, COVID, for ruining that one, right? But we used to go to those all the time, and I would meet hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of realtors, and I would be like, hey, what kind of realtor are you? What kind of real estate do you do? Oh, I work with first-time home buyers who want to buy a single family home. Okay, I know 5,000 of you. Like, what about you? And then I will never forget this gentleman I met, incredible agent, first of all, but when I asked him that question, he goes, Michelle, I know I specifically work with veterans who are not currently in the military, but want to learn how to use their VA benefits to buy a house with zero out of their pocket. That was his sentence to me.
Yep.
And my eyeballs perked up. Like, I felt like all of a sudden I was like, oh my God, I want to sit here and have a drink with this guy and talk to him about his business. Because one, I'm obviously married to a guy that was formerly in the military. But two, that guy knew exactly who his audience was, and he knew exactly what his goal was.
Something here about Molly. There's something really that makes you special. And you become very passionate about what you choose to do.
Yeah, I do.
And my opinion is that that's really important in the success of anything that someone does. For real estate, I wasn't passionate about real estate before I started. I don't know how we find these things we do.
I don't either. I wasn't passionate about being a bartender either,
Nope.
so I understand.
It talks about who you are as a person. And, there's a couple really high, branded people in the world. Like, they're not even going to know me or call me, but Richard Branson and Warren Buffett and some of these other people. And there's one thing, I respect what they build, but there's something that really frustrates me about what they say. It's really elitist. And they say, you have to find what you're passionate about and then do it. Mm-hmm. It's the wrong advice.
I think so too.
Pick something, commit to it, and you will find passion
Exactly.
within.
I think you're very much right about that. But I also think you should be proud of what you do.
Yes.
Even if you're like, I think if you have to do something, even if it's you follow a horse and clean up its poop,
Yep.
find some passion in that. Find something good in it, and do the best job you possibly can cleaning up that poop.
That's mindset again, right? But here's what's
But yeah.
wild is it turns into greatness within your thing.
Exactly.
It does.
It does.
It turns into Japs, like this passion that you found around mixing cocktails. That thing, it started, I'm assuming, at Neon's, kind of, right?
Right.
You didn't know it was going to turn into it.
No, I had no idea. I just kind of kept. I wake
Kept
up
learning.
I wake up every day and I say, I wonder what's going to happen. I wonder who I'm going to meet. I wonder what the day will bring and how that's going to change my life. Because you don't know, and you just have to be open to it. You know, you can't be scared of it. You have to be open to it. And I think that's key. You know,
people around you. I don't know. Like, take the Molly Wellman reputation and this idea and opinion that people have all these really cool things. You take that away. The people that work for you, you're probably just Molly.
I am.
Okay.
Thank goodness.
Yep. Right on. And that Molly to them, I hope they know. And you're going to probably say, I hope they know how special, not just you are, but that experience to be around someone that actually is passionate about the thing you're doing around them. That's the spice of this life. And if we're going to spend so much time professionally working, that's the thing, right? Because, like, man, this is the family we're picking for ourselves when you go to work and you're dealing with your customers. And so this passionate, perseverant, right, just a driven thing that you have, always growing, learning, that's an example that people need.
I think it's, you know, we're all human, and it's something that you need to also remind yourself too. Like, just like today when I was talking to my manager and I said, you know, I think we've gotten off, you know, to just being the order taker. We really need to bring this back, not just for our customers and for, you know, our business, but our customer, but for us.
100%.
You know, it's really important. Like, you're not going to enjoy your job if you don't put your all into it and make it yours.
Right on.
You know, it's really important.
So failure, when you actually do fail, because we do every day, but when you legitimately fail and you feel the failure and it feels terrible and you're crying and you're emotionally upset and the day was a disaster, what the hell do you do with that?
Most people beat themselves up so much for what they didn't do today that they've set themselves up to also not do it tomorrow. Right? Imagine if days didn't exist. Like, how much harder our lives would be, because there would never be a natural reset. It could just be perpetual failure, hours after hours. Like, I think the power of a day is I get to go, you know what? Today sucked. I was the worst. I failed my team. I failed my clients. I failed my wife. I failed my kids. But you know what? I'm going to go sleep. And tomorrow, I'm going to crush it. That's the beauty of a day, right? Is we get that natural reset every 24 hours. Most people, though, they just beat themselves up so bad that they wake up the next day as a lesser version of themselves. And that's why they never achieve anything. And so we've got to figure out how to overcome that. I think it's great to go, you know what? You want to be a big baby about where you messed up? Awesome.
Yeah.
Be a baby today.
Yeah.
But tomorrow, put your big boy pants on, put your big girl pants on,
Yeah.
and start over and go do it. I think the problem is, I was trying to look up, I said it on a podcast the other day, and the guy that was on there was like, dude, that was so good, you better write it down. And I wrote it down, but I can't find it. But I said something like, you have to care more about serving others than you care about looking stupid. Mm-hmm. And if you do, you'll overcome looking stupid. But if I care more about looking cool than helping you, then I'm always going to protect myself from never having the chance to look cool.
You hear certain people out in the world say that they like to fail, and I push back on that. I mean, there's some big person. I'm like, hey, listen, I don't like it. It feels terrible when you fail, but I think that if you can learn to embrace it, that's kind of the secret sauce to the success of entrepreneurship, to commerce. Because I personally, I don't know about you, and to speak to it, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but me personally, I haven't learned my best things from my successes.
No.
I've learned them from the failures, and they hurt, but that's when you learn you have to do something different and better and reevaluate yourself. And so this path that you've gone down, so I want to hear how Pranav, the engineer, was successful in a professional corporate world.
Yeah.
Right? How in the world does that lead down a path to become a board of director of companies, to then become a president of, I think, Resilient?
Yep.
Right? And then say, now it's time. How does this happen? Is it a slight progression throughout life and all these? What is this?
It is. It is. The first startup taught me a few things.
Mm-hmm. What did it teach you? Yeah.
Yeah, I learned a lot about business acumen. I learned a lot about technology, market, even the strategic insights, right? How do you place a bet and so on and so forth. The one thing that I did not have was the fact that I did not learn the leadership to scale, right? I think earlier
to
on,
that. Yep.
yeah, early on when you're doing entrepreneurship, it's more experimentation. You make it happen, you make it work. It's scrappy. Every employee has their incentives aligned. Everybody is rowing in the same direction. As you scale your business, all of a sudden, not everybody has the same stake as you do or the earlier set of people do. And scaling is then you have to have processes, you have to be able to lead people and have that momentum going. And you would realize, I think there are 4 stages I think about that a very successful entrepreneur has to go through. The first one, he or she has to be an innovator. Whatever that may be. Innovation doesn't have to be technical. It could be, how do I do a great design? How do I have a great retail experience? Whatever that turns out to be. From innovator, you have to transition to an entrepreneur. Now you're taking a risk. You're making a bet, and you're persevering through it. You have a lot of failure. Mm-hmm. From an entrepreneur, you have to become a great manager. And from manager, you have to get to a great leader. That's how you scale from nothing to multi-billion dollar company. And not everybody is able to do it. When I looked at myself at that point, I think I could have created another startup right after that. Even I thought about it, and I even tried it. But then I realized, nobody's going to let me run the company. And even if I did it, I probably wouldn't be as good. I need to learn that leadership element.
Okay, so how can you, I'll pick back up in a second, but how can you have that self-awareness that you're talking about? How can you have that, but it not bury your confidence?
Yeah. It's a failure, to your point. I was punching above my weight. I wanted to run the show because I could see I could do it. Strategically was there. But I knew I wasn't as mature probably to lead that. And part of it comes from life experiences, to be honest. I mean, just having, losing a father, taking responsibility for a full family, going to school, working, all that sort of thing. Really, you'd spend more time that you're not doing something, reflecting, and probably gives you that point. So it's a combination of me wanting to do more, but I know that I was falling short, and then ability to just reflect at the point in time. So I think that was the point where I said, I need to learn that other element. That
piece. So I agree. For me being a operator, an entrepreneur, starting this thing and owning buildings and having a real estate company, I connect with what you're saying. But honestly, I don't think I had the awareness. So I was 28 when I started this. I was prepared on a lot of these levels, but looking back at that 28-year-old mark, I had a lot to learn. And so, but the good thing is that you were self-aware and you were still focused enough to go out and learn these things, to prepare yourself to build, to do it. I mean, that's unique.
Probably.
It is. Like, it's not so you can still be humble and say it. I'm around a lot of business owners now. That's unique because what happens to a lot of people is they just say, probably not for me. They go to corporate America and they stay there forever.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Something about the risk, something about the self-awareness, not liking to acknowledge we have some weaknesses. So I'm excited to hear more of this. So we have innovation, being an entrepreneur, and then being a manager and then a leader.
Yep.
You recognized at some point, I bet then you couldn't identify this was the 4 pillars to have a multi-billion. You didn't know that.
Nope.
You've learned and identified these things.
Yep.
All that experience that you had prior to 30.
Yeah.
Does all that experience, good, bad, whatever we can call it now because you got through it,
Yeah.
right? Did that help your development to become the owner, the manager, the leader today? Like this?
I'd say what
Does it put you in a place where, because it probably causes great humility in that you're less judgmental, you're more supportive,
Yeah.
it might make you more caring.
I would say one thing I learned from that is that I don't know everything. Like, that's what I try to, and then that could come with my age that clicked into, like, other people know way more than I do. Like, and I need to accept that. So when I think I'm 100% right for sure on something, and then I'm wrong, or when I think I'm 100% right, sure, I've been wrong so many times that I've come to the conclusion that I need to stay open-minded and be more fluid to the possibility that someone else might have a much better understanding and idea than I do.
I think that comes with maturity and age too, man.
Yeah.
Because guys like us at 25, we would have known we were right.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And
Yeah.
nobody's going to tell us.
Yeah.
So then if that's your perspective, then how do you make decisions then as a business owner? Because at the end of the day, you have to make the decisions.
So first of all, basically anytime I do anything, the first person I run it by is my wife. She talks about it like, so she's not necessarily involved in the day-to-day management, but she's half owner, 100%. And she has an upper level understanding of what happens at Arnold's and what Arnold's needs to be. So that's my first sounding board. Boom, hit her. And then I have my entire staff who like my bar manager, Mario, I might be like, hey, I want to do this with liquor. And then he'd be like, that's not going to work. That's stupid. And then I'll just believe him because he is the expert at my restaurant at a bar or at the bar. And then I've got Rebecca, my manager on the floor, probably soon to be general manager.
Congrats, Rebecca.
Yes. She's
on the floor, so
she's on the floor. So why am I going to be telling her like what she needs to do with a hosting situation? Like obviously, and this is I feel like is a problem a lot of people that own businesses have, is they think that they could know the best part about everything. And it's not true. Like Rebecca holds down the seating situation. So Rebecca, hold that down. And sometimes I'll jump in there, but you hold that down. And when I go to Kayla, who runs the kitchen, I'm not like, I want this, and this to be on the menu. I want it the best from her. So I want her to be involved with the choices that are made back there. So basically the biggest thing I've learned as maybe getting older or running business is trust other people and involve them in the decision-making process so that their heart's in it. And once their heart's in it, you want someone that it's really hard to find someone that will work like you when you're not around. There's no one's going to do it. You're the owner. But there's people that naturally are compelled to care. And that's the hardest thing to find is the people that care. So my thought is I hire people, or I move, once I spot that you care, I move you in a position of leadership because you're going to do more than caring is more important than smarts, than knowledge, than anything.
So how do you spot that? Let's help people a little bit.
It's just when people are doing things that go above and beyond. Like you just or when it hurts them, you can see that they're bothered.
So why do you know Rebecca cares?
So Rebecca, it's hard to be when I'm put on a spot to put that directly, but like Rebecca might, become if we got a bad review, Rebecca would be bothered by it. Like honestly, inside bothered by it, not just like,
that sucks.
Like that sucks, and I'm moving on. Like now, but someone that is new there, that is just a brand new server, they're not emotionally invested. But Rebecca's emotionally invested, Kayla's emotionally invested, Mario's emotionally invested, and then point that out. Beyond that, we have bartenders and servers that have worked there for 10 years, and they're emotionally invested. And that's the most important part of the job is finding people that care about your business like you do, or even if it's only a portion, just like as long as they care about the business like it's their place.
I also had a really big passion for education and how we have to become lifelong learners as a society, because technology is accelerating so fast that we're never going to keep up with it. So how do you build for the future of work if you're not leading from within and saying, okay, well, just because you don't have a skill set doesn't mean that you can't gain it. So
being the lifelong learner.
Yeah.
So what does that mean? So you're sitting here talking to Mark, and we're sitting down in a group of 4 or 5 people around a bonfire. You're like, hey, you got to be a lifelong learner.
Yeah.
What's that mean? What's that look like?
So for me, I think, when I usually talk to people, I'm like, so what are you geeking out about right now? That's what it is. That's lifelong learning right there, right? Like, what are you excited to learn about? What are you like, if you go on a rabbit hole right now, when you're doing a Google search, what's that rabbit hole usually about? And finding new areas that continuously interest us. Because I think that, and I felt fallen prey to it even when I was specifically more in corporate roles, was like you just kind of keep honing your own skills over and over again, and kind of in the same vertical or same business or same area. But then all of a sudden, I think entrepreneurship specifically has kind of blossomed where I'm like, ooh, I would love to learn about crypto or blockchain or things that might not be applicable to my day-to-day life right this second, but I feel like they're having a major impact on society. So I want to learn about it. So that's what, usually those conversations look like. It's not, like you got to go to school forever.
Right.
It's what are you getting excited to learn about, or what's intriguing you or interesting you right now?
So through all the journey, and we'll stay on that journey and
Yeah.
we get back to it from 2015, but how do you know when not to chase the squirrel? Like, how do you know when to be patient, to stop and stick
Yeah.
with this thing, to let it evolve?
Right.
With how technology's evolving and how fast, like, when do we
Yeah.
know?
I don't know if you always do. I think now, for me personally, I think I really chase my energy, and it sounds really kind of weird and obscure, but like, we've all heard that, chase your passion or do what you love and you'll never, work a day in your life, and that kind of thing. And for me, it's never really played out like that. It's been, what am I giving my kind of discretionary energy towards? What do I do on a day-to-day basis where I grind away and I look up at the clock and I'm shocked how late it is, right? It's those moments that I think, to me, are very indicative of leaning in to more of that endeavor, and not continuing to look around.
What would you do different ending up where you are now, be in the lane of 2021? What would you do different looking back?
I probably wouldn't have bought more than a handful of rental properties. I mean, buying rentals is cool because you can learn it. You start to develop understanding of it, and you can parlay that into building networks with other passive investors where you need to add value to them. You need to know a little bit thing or two about investing. But, I probably shouldn't have bought 11 of those annoying things. Probably wasted some time. Should have went to private placements and syndications quicker.
But could you have arrived where you are without it? Can someone's brain learn and develop and evolve without going through what you went through, without going through what I went through to develop my mind in a different?
Yeah, I mean, if somebody was an accredited investor or were able to save, quite a bit of money a year, there is a possibility of going straight to the MBA, skipping college in a way here. Mm-hmm. It is very possible. The problem here is like anybody can put together a syndication. Any jabroni can do it. Just make a podcast, make a fake book, make it a nice PDF deck, and you're off and rolling. And for a new passive investor trying to figure out where you're going to put 50 grand, it is very daunting because you cannot tell the difference between an institution that has been doing this for decades, a good operator that is legit, and a complete newbie. It is very difficult, right?
So how do we help them? Like, so when they look at your systems and what you've built versus others, what is your advice on how you can differentiate between who's legit and who's not, and who's the jabroni and who isn't?
Yeah, so two things. Educate yourself on the numbers. What is it that you need to look for in the pitch deck to understand if this operator is being conservative or not? I teach this in my pretty inexpensive syndication LPE course, which kind of just shrouds all the little tricks and games that syndicators play. And then the second, and probably this is the bigger one, is grow your network of other pure passive investors. But unless you know a thing or two about passive investing, syndications, and some of these nuances of like reversion cap rate, rent increases per year assumptions, like no accredited investor or sophisticated investor is going to want to waste their time, right? You need to bring value to that interaction to build those organic relationships yourself.
Yep.
So it's a chicken and egg thing. I would say get educated first and trying to find the right people.
Mm-hmm. It just depends on what they want. Like, is there someone that truly wants to be a passive investor who is accredited, who has net worth of $1 million or $2 million and higher. Let them focus on what their career is, how they're driving their income, right? Best use goes back to economics, probably econ 10 something, right? And it is, so for them, is it best that they find someone like you who's developed the expertise, who has the network of management? Are they looking for passive income? Or is this idea of this true entrepreneur where like, I'm going to go do this myself. I'm going to go build Lane's thing. It looks easy.
Good freaking luck, man. I mean, there's a myriad of different gurus teaching this stuff out there that love to take your 30, 50 grand.
Oh,
but
that's
I know
it?
a very small percentage of them are actually successful.
I'm a sap. I work these just crazy, crazy hours. I think any successful entrepreneur, and success is, it's just based upon your own business, and it's not about how much money you make, but it's like, hey, it's the way that you're deriving an income. It's how you're living your life. It's how people identify you in business. But in the background, I have all these screens, and sometimes I have Spotify up and I'm listening to like a Rogan podcast or Gary Vee, or I might listen to an audio book, but sometimes I put on music, but every once in a while I'll pull up YouTube. And YouTube's playing in the background. I haven't paid for the upgrade, so I have to click skip ads all the time, and it drives me insane. But I'm just like a sap now for some of these America's Got Talent, X Factor, like the Golden Buzzer. It pulls on my heartstrings, and I need some of that in my life.
Yep.
This week I saw a girl that it was probably one of the most touching, one of the most, if we want to call it, heartwarming perspectives. And she said, she was singing, so she came out and she had cancer. I guess she's going to be on this season, or she was on last season. And she had an incredible voice, wrote her own song. It's very tough to get like Simon to be nice to you, right? Because his thing is to be mean. And he was touched and he teared up a little bit. And he said, wow, that must be really hard to go through what you're going through. And there was this pause, the whole crowd and everything. And she said, it was something to the effect, I'm going to be terrible in saying it, but it was something like, you can't wait for life to be good before you choose to be happy. And she's sitting up there, and this girl's been battling cancer for 4 or 5 years. She still has it in her liver. She's up there singing, and you're like, it's these moments of perspective.
Yes.
How in the hell can we adjust or change our mindset? It doesn't have to be exactly like hers, but to have that perspective in our life when things are even great. Like, what do we do to help everyone in our... Because I'm a pretty optimistic guy. I enjoy life. I don't need to make more money. But there's so many people I'm around, I wish I could shoot them with this injection of optimism, injection of belief in themselves, injection of how good we have it in this country. What do we do? Why do you have to be her and going through the life that she has to gain that?
I mean, but that's the thing. Most people have never been in a position either good enough or uncomfortable enough to give them such a different perspective that they're willing to open their mind to that. And I won't beat on self-awareness because I think it's a different thing here. But it's the same concept as if from an entrepreneur's perspective, you need to fall in love with the journey. Success is more of a journey than a destination. My wife finally realized after we got married, there wasn't this end thing that I was pursuing that when I got there, Phil's going to be happy. Phil's happy and does all these things because he enjoys creating these and pursuing the endeavor and this endeavor or business or whatever. The learning and the things that happen throughout that's what gets me excited. So a more direct answer to your question is she understood that life doesn't have to be good for you to be happy because happiness is a decision, not a destination. And again, it's that journey we take between our ears. So how do we help people do it? We help people realize that whenever you have a success or you have a win, or if you have a pitfall, the bads are never as bad as you think they're going to be, but the goods are never as good as you think they're going to be either.